Additionally, Mr. Chuck is the president of Kauai Teen Challenge Incorporated, an outdoor experiential education program specializing in outdoor adventure-based therapy, team building, and enhancing self-awareness. Prior to starting Kauai, Mr. Chuck was the executive director of Leadership Kauai, managing and facilitating the progress of annual classes and program, and specializes in coaching young people for success, self-empowerment process, conflict resolution, safety certifications, and goal-setting strategies. Tonight's distinguished keynote speaker is Mr. Mason Shaw, President of Kauai. Please welcome Mr. Mason Shaw.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in celebration and recognition of this great pinnacle that we've all reached. I was wondering if I could talk about a subject that's come up already this evening. It's called change. It's a constant variable in our universe. And I'd like to suggest that as humans, we really don't have any control over change, and that we're subject to it. But there are three choices that we do have when responding to change. And I'd like to go over those three choices really quickly. The first is what I call becoming the prisoner. The prisoner is really the person who resists change the most, the one who fights tooth and nail all the way through until the very end. The second person is what I call the passenger. The passenger just is along for the ride. I'm not sure if they're in any better shape as the prisoner because they're really not committed. They haven't made a choice. And the third type of person is what I call the driver. The driver is the type of person who has already accepted change, tries to align themselves, adapt themselves to what is coming. They actually have the opportunity to try and affect change in some ways. So this is a great position to be in. One of my biggest changes that happened in my previous life, and I can relate to what Debbie was talking about, was when I was a firefighter. And in June of 2001, my helicopter crashed into the side of Mount Waialeale, where I severely hurt my back, injured it by rupturing 3 discs, and it set me on a different pathway. In fact, what happened to me is I had to retire early. I spiraled into this despair at that time and bitterness. I was definitely a prisoner because I fought tooth and nail on that process. It wasn't until years later, looking back, that I realized that it was probably the best thing that had ever happened to me, because along the way, those lessons that came forward for me were just so important. I'd like to suggest also that really there aren't any accidents in life, no mistakes, just lessons for us to learn. Sometimes I ask myself, did I have to go through that pain, that suffering in the process? And I guess the answer is yes, because oftentimes we don't really get the messages that are right in front of us until we have this significant life-changing experience. All of you know what that suffering is about because you have sacrificed so much in being here. The long hours of work, catching up with your balancing your life with school and family, and so I applaud you for that. This morning, I had to bury my grandmother with my family on Oahu, and she was 85 years old, and my family had asked me to do their eulogy for the family. And so as I went around talking to family members, interviewing them, I realized that how much change had occurred on Kauai and in her life. 65 years ago, she was about graduating from high school in Kapa'a. She was one of the first of 66 graduates from the first graduating class of the class of 1946 at Kapa'a High School. She was just in an era at that time in our history where we were coming out of the economic depression and we were in the midst of war. She recalls having to walk to school with her classmates with her gas masks. It was just a different time, a different era. And so much has changed since then. At the time, there wasn't any KCC. KCC wouldn't be around for another 20 years. And the only options were really the sugar industry or the pineapple cannery. She chose the pineapple cannery. And, you know, Kauai was going through some change as well. We had our first extensive irrigation system just coming online for Kauai. We had a big box store. It was called Crest Store on Rice Street. And, you know, we were so remote at the time, we didn't even have a stoplight. It wouldn't be for another 10 years in 1957 until we had our first stoplight in Kekaha. So much change just in 2 generations. Even in my time, I remember growing up in Koipu on the South Shore. My father was an employee of the Wild Pine and Koipu Beach hotels. And we were allowed to live on the coastline of the South Shore. So I grew up right across the street from Breakers Beach. I got to swim every day. We grew up on this 3-acre lot, big plantation home, guest house. In the mornings, my father and I, we go running up in between, actually down the dirt road towards Mahaulepu. And there was nothing there. You know, where Willy Willy track starts and Kalapaki Joe is right now. Just dirt road. Yeah. No highway, no bypass road, no crowds and shipwrecks. So just in our lifetime, we've seen so much happen. And like you said earlier, all you have to do is look at the daily prices of gas and see how much change is occurring around us. In fact, when I drive through Koipu now, I realize that those properties that we lived on back then have all been dissected, probably sold for millions of dollars. So it looks very different now. Why am I talking about change? And what does this have to do with you? Well, I believe you folks represent a shift, a new generation, a generation of change, of creation. Ideas like sustainability, self-sufficiency, earth-friendly attitudes all come from the work that you folks have supported. With the technology thriving so rapidly, moving so rapidly, and the opportunities for us to network and have information at just the tip of our fingers have really helped to spread these ideas rapidly. We know now that people need to become more self-empowered, self-motivated, self-directed, and self-correcting individuals, and that is so important. You recognize that, and you also move with a sense of urgency. You understand that you've inherited all the issues, all the problems that past generations have created, and you know that you can no longer turn away from them. You have a long hill above you. This theme's also prevalent here at UH, at the University of Hawaii System, here at Hawaii Community College. We've seen huge growth here in just recent years with emerging programs and activities happening on our campus, such as the Ho'o'uluwehi, the agriculture, carpentry programs that you folks have seen happen just recently. Even this theme has even transcended to our students, with many of them being here this evening through the generous benefactor of the Wai'ale'ale program. The new IS 103 courses using stick downings, on-course college success strategies, and of course the numerous opportunities of achieving a bachelor or master's degree via the University Center. We know that this future is about collaboration. And at Hawaii Community College, we've also seen that outreach with programs within the community and sponsoring agencies with the county to create programs like the KCC Free Bus Pass, the Sustainable Housing Projects. You are and represent all of these changes. This evening's festivities are surrounded around the idea or the theme of Kulia Ikanu'u. And Kulia Ikanu'u actually has it's been used 2 different ways. The first way I'd like to talk about is that it's been used as a model by our Queen Tupi'olani. It refers to reaching for the highest. And, you know, I always think that reaching for the highest is about reaching our highest consciousness and understanding. So often I hear the phrase of reaching for the lowest hanging fruit, and it's really different from how I was brought up as well. You know, the lowest hanging fruit was always reserved for kupuna or keiki, where the highest fruit was really the challenge for us. It was about challenging our minds, being creative. And so I'm really stressed by how we have transitioned so quickly here to reaching out for such low bars often as people. We depend on legislation and others to make the decisions for us. What we should be really doing is practicing personal leadership in our own lives. The second way that Kulia Ikanu'u is used is in a longer phrase. It states, Kulia Ikanu'u ikapaipai kapu'oli loa. Most of you know the first half of the phrase, and it says, strive for the summit. But the second half, all it says, to ascend the sacred platform of Liloa. And I think when you hear the story of Liloa, you understand that it has a little bit of deeper meaning, because Liloa was renowned as this ali'aimoku of Hawaii on the Big Island and over Waipio Valley. And he reigned for over 35 years in peace, prospering for his family. He was known for his good deeds at the time. And Liloa created this pathway to Heiau in Waikilo. And it was said that he placed this sacred oahu or stone on the pathway. And so when I read this Olelo no Eau by Mary Kavena Pukui, what it says to me is that it's not just about reaching someplace, a destination, it's about the journey that we take along that way. Because only people who live righteous lives were allowed to ascend the sacred platform of Liloa. There's another metaphor in Hawaiian culture that I think is appropriate. It's Hawaiian navigation. Many of us know that we were navigators of the stars, but we weren't the only. Europeans also used the stars to navigate their way. They used it differently though. They used it for us to plot points on a map to seek a destination, where our Hawaiian ancestors used it as a general understanding that there was something out there. So they focused more on having the faith and listening to the signs that were out there that determined where they were going to go. In closing, what I'd like to do is leave you folks with a few tips in striving for that summit. The first is adapt and adjust to the changing environment. There are times in the terrain as you move forward along the path that it changes. It becomes rocky, sometimes it rains, becomes muddy, you get slippery places there in the pathway. Remember to constantly change with the changing environments. Number 2, collaborate. It's real easy for us to leave people behind on the trail, but it's better to take them with you. There's more power in numbers, and it will mean more when you get to the very top if people are around you. Walk the path with others and ask for help in the difficult places in the trail. Number 3, stay the course and never give up. You see, as humans, we are addicted to comfort, and when things get hard, we often give up. Climbing that hill requires perseverance and follow-through. Every step of the way can be difficult. You must have the fortitude and stamina to change through each order in order to reach your goals. Remember, the resistance to change equals the distance plus the speed of which you try and affect that change. Small steps will get you there. Don't forget the lessons that you were taught or the lessons left from those who were before you, because they have already paved the pathway. Number 4, stop at the scenic points and take it all in. Remember to celebrate the successes along the way. It's all in your attitude. The right frame of mind will help you get to the next turn or bend in the trail. Time is limited, so live each day to the very best. And number 5, strive for and stay true to your values and your beliefs, the things that are most important to you. The writer Oscar Wilde said, "The price of everything is the value of nothing." We live in a world driven by capitalism, and in the wake, we have created a sea of greed, emptiness, and waste, where value is based on more on what you have than who you are and what you believe in. I often ask myself if we've prostituted our lands and our aloha in exchange for the nice home, the car, the 40-hour-a-week job. Have we lost our values that were so important to us in our way of living? Remember, the trick is not to strive for what others have, but strive what's in your heart. Never compromise what you know to be true. And lastly, remember, it's not about reaching the summit or the top of the summit. It's about the journey. Focus on the process and the lessons that you receive along the way and make life worthwhile. Instead of reaching for the summit, try to become the summit. And I promise you, you will be happier when you get there. Class of 2012, congratulations on your achievement and your commitment to the journey.